Hi, welcome to tutorials. Please follow through Easy Manage on the GitHub team Easy Manage, and then we are looking at Learn-Easy Manage repository, which has the tutorials and Learn Easy Manage resources. We are going to cover in this tutorial a low-code customize and extend for full stack, and we are covering Flutter and GraphQL low-code customize for beginners, and we are looking at use database generated key values upon insert create record. For this tutorial, we'll be utilizing the product table. Let's look at our product table. So we have a product table with product ID, which is auto increment in MySQL database, which should generate the key value uh, as per MS SQL identity or Oracle sequence equivalent. So we'll be utilizing this database generated key value, and then user don't need to supply the product ID on the input form. This tutorial will have two aspects. One is the backend change, API change, and then the front end input form change. So we'll look at those both aspects. So let's look at the API change we will do for this. We are going to change GraphQL APIs. I'm opening the GraphQL Spring Java project, which we have been following through. And if I could locate the product tables related APIs, I can locate the product model definition in this file. So we do provide a commented line for you to utilize very fast. So if we use the generated value annotation, and then the database table itself has the required generation mechanism. In MySQL, it is auto increment, and in other databases, it could be sequence or identity. We can get this done very fast. So we'll be using generation strategy of identity, which works for MySQL auto increment type. So let's repackage and rerun. Now, once we take care of this annotation, then in the insert or save kind of calls for repository, which we use as a basis for our APIs, we do not need to supply the product ID column. So, all right, we have changed the API side. It's just a very small change. And let's go to our front end now and change. So for front end, let's bring up our, we are running this Flutter project, and I'm using the web device and running this app here. So if I could locate the customer, sorry, not customer, product screen in the product input form, we have product ID, product name, category, supplier, description, and all those fields. So what we need to do is hide product ID and remove it from our model assignment so that we pass the rest of the data, and then the backend will generate the product ID for us. So let's see our code for Flutter. This is our under lib pages. We have product table and then all the Dart files for that. So let's look at our model. So in the model, we provide a code helper or commented code to get you started very fast. So then using this new model without the key, we can utilize in our input form, and that's it. And then hide also the display of text form field, and then that should do this you know um, customization to implement this. So let's change our model. So let's uncomment this second model definition, which comes with the key, commented. So I'm going to copy this and then open our form. Let's find, we do have a way of commented way we have put up where you can directly see how we're going to use it. So this is very common requirement. Then we need to just comment this out, and so the instance variable new ERP product for our model instance is going to be utilizing the second model definition, and it doesn't have a key. And then for our display, we can always search column via bracket one. We will just hide or remove this product ID from our input form. So let's just remove it. So let's save input form model, and let's do hot reload. So that should give us the new input form screen. So, all right, so we don't have the key anymore in this screen. Let's try to insert a record and verify. So let's add a new product. And submit. So record has been added. Let's see whether we find that in our list view. All right, vitamin D, product ID 28. This has been created, and we haven't supplied the key from the front end, but it has taken care via generating a key based on the database table auto increment property. So that's it. So one more thing to note is in the record detail display, we are displaying the product ID, and also in the edit form, we are displaying, and product ID is there. We don't need to remove this. But if you do need, keys to be not displayed on screens, please follow our tutorial for hiding columns and fields in screens. Um, how to easily customize and hide columns that can help you. So this concludes this part of tutorial. Let's look at the second part now. use views based on two tables, how do we handle the display of this view, and how do we handle the view input edit saving? You cannot suppose in save in the view. You can utilize the underlying two separate tables to save or edit data. This is the tutorial we will cover. Let's look at our um, tables, and we have a view which we will utilize, uh, which we have generated screens for. So this view is simple view, which it joins the inventory table and product table and gets the product name also along with product ID, to display in the view. And then one of the use cases, many times you're adding an inventory, but you want to add a new product at the same time you're adding inventory for it. So for that purpose, such a view can come handy. So let's look at how do we do it. So let's look at what are the front end changes we will be doing, customizations. So let's locate our view for inventory and product together. This is the last entry here. So if I expand the screens, what we will do is from the list view and then the detail records, we will hide the display of um, product ID, leaving product name displayed, which still gives us a logical view to the user. He will see the product name, but not the customer, sorry, product ID for the record. Then in the input form, we will keep both these entries. Um, sorry, we will also remove product ID because we have already customized for product table to use the database generated key value for product ID. So that is already in place, but we will capture the data, and then uh, on the backend side, we will use the functions to save data to inventory table and product table, and edit form. Let's say edit when we fetch some data. In edit form, we will make inventory ID is already display only. We'll also make product ID display only so that they're not able to edit the keys, but they can edit the rest of the data. And then again, we will save the inventory record modification to inventory table and product part of modification to product table if they modify. So that is the change we'll make for edit form. Please note, um, there is a drop down tutorial, and then the ideal way for showing the product, in this edit and input form is via a drop down, which internally will handle the product ID key and just display the product name as a drop down for your user to select. And then, but that's a separate tutorial you can follow. In this particular tutorial, we will not implement drop down. So let's go step by step in that fashion. So on the backend side, let's review what are the changes we'll be making. So let's locate our view for inventory and product. And if I open let me close that product table. If I open the controller GraphQL and then look at all my APIs, we'll be modifying the record create insert record API to utilize to table, and edit API update to uh, update the data into two child tables of this view. And we don't need to change the view part of API fetching part because we're just going to hide those product ID columns in the front end code. So let's go back to our front end side and let's, take care of first hiding the columns from list view and detail view. That is our first step. So let's see our list view running here. We will be hiding the product ID column from list view and then detail record viewer screen. So let's look at our Flutter code. I will expand the view inventory view section. So to hide columns, we do have a very shortcut way to hide from list view and detail records view. So we have a commented again section, hide fields helper. So we can uncomment this to map label value functions. We can use the modified functions and then just utilize them in our uh, data table.dart file. So let's uncomment these functions which are available to us generated. Then we just decide what products we want to, what columns we want to hide. So we're just going to hide the product ID column. So let's save this. So basically, this function is utilized to display data, and removing this column from that, then we'll hide it on the front end. And this function utilizes a sub function defined here, so that we just need to look for our function in the data table and replace with this hide 01. So I'm going to open the data table, look for this function. So let's see how many places it's used. 1, 2, 3. And then we will change it for all the, uses in the data table. So let's copy the full function name. Go back to data table. Okay, here, here, here. Save. So this takes care of hiding from the list view, and then for display record detail viewer, for the display record detail, we need to just use the sub function it uses. So let's look at our display record detail comes from the table name underscore lib.dart file. So I'm looking at that, and if I search it, it's only used at one place. So I'm utilizing the new uncommented function from our model file. So all this, the code was already there. We just uncommented something, and then we are just utilizing copy paste those function names. Let's see our front end now. So let's look at the entry screen. So as you can see, the product ID is not hidden yet. It is still visible. Let's see the record detail view. From here, it is disappeared. So this looks good. So let's figure out why it has not taken effect in our list view. So if I could go back to my model, the code helper, the uncommented function, so we can see that we need to modify these two files and also replace both functions. So we haven't done this second part for the data table. So let's, view this in the data table, and I can see it's used multiple places, but most of codes are commented. So we will use the new function wherever the previous one is utilized. So we will use the function with the hide 1 as a suffix. So let's go back to data table. We find this. We replace by hide 1. Let's replace all of them. Save, hot reload, and then look at our front end running app. So let's expand inventory screens and list view. Great. As you can see, the product ID is removed from display, and let's double confirm our detail record viewer also is, you know, it's hiding the product ID column. So this part is taken care. Now the next part is for the input form, we're gonna leave it and then handle on the backend side the the saving to table. And for the edit part, so if we go to list view again and just look at edit screen, here we will just make one small change. We will make this product ID also um, display only, that is, do not allow to edit, so that that takes care of keeping the data, IDs safe. So let's go to the edit form. So in the input and edit form, usually it's easy to, let's close this previous search pop-up. It's easier to locate the fields by square bracket 1. Also, we use it for some other, purposes, but this is our first field, inventory ID, and we have, so let's be careful. I have opened the form, which is not the right, dart file. For the input form, um, we want to leave it like that. So let me open the right dart file, which is the edit.dart for our this customization purpose. So in the edit.dart file for the inventory ID, so by default, the first key is enabled false, means only display only. And the same thing we need to apply to our product ID. Product ID is at the second place. So I'm just going to copy this part from here and add it here. Save, hot reload. Usually do the hot reload, because if you modify the global .dart and other files, sometimes the effects are not seen. So let's again query the inventory screen. Let's go to edit. So this is display only, and this is now display only also. So we have taken care of making both the keys display only for the edit purposes. So that completes our front end change. Now let's do the back end API changes to save and edit to um, save to the separate child tables. So for the backend, we are looking at our API call for a create and update. So if I look at the create call, we want to let's look at our tables. So the view is based on inventory table and product table, and product table has auto increment set, which is generated value on the database side we are using, and inventory table has product ID as a key used from product side and which is also a reference key. So in the create call, we do provide a code help commented text. If your object is a view, how can you save to two tables? Incidentally, this is provided for our product and inventory table only, but if you're working on some other two tables, this is just a helper text, and then you can derive from this and utilize for your own tables. So the first thing is if the object is view and you want to save data, you can use a construct like below, and you need to import model and repository classes for the base tables because this particular is based on the view and doesn't have model and repository for the individual table imported. So let's use this. So one more thing we need to notice is because the product table utilizes a generated value, which we have implemented, we will need to save to product table first and then get the generated product ID and then utilize that to put it in the inventory table. So that should be the order. So let's start it. One more thing in the input form, we have still left the product ID displayed, but we will just ignore that value. Ideally, you could comment the input form on the front end side and remove the product ID field altogether. So let's comment out these two. And although the helper text gives me this, um, we could take the proper one from our models in the product and inventory table. So quickly, let's get to the product. This is our product table APIs, and if I could locate the create API, so we need this. Now, since we're not passing the instance variable for our product, we will need to get that also. So you can initialize the instance variable as we similar to what we pass as a argument for the function. So we will now, import the model and classes for our product table. We are on line 330. You need to leave the inventory and product view based model and repository because that gets utilized for our display or fetch data kind of API calls. So we want to leave them there. So let's go back to our create code. We also need repository injection. So the next part is to populate this product table variable from our view-based JSON or argument we got, and we're just gonna so we are going to so as I said the sample text is for some different prefix tables. Always get your correct table names from your generated code. So we're gonna set the product ID to our the one which we got in our. Actually, we're not gonna send the product ID because that will be auto generated, and we're gonna set the product name from our supplied view based. So and then we're gonna use save and flush call so that we get back the generated product ID. Oops, double save. So let's remove that. Oops, we have a typo there. So just, yeah, remove the double save, keep one. So this part now should take care of saving to the first table product. And then after this mechanism, we would have got the new product ID also available, which we can use to the insert to the second table. So let me complete and add code for the second table here. So let's just, yeah, insert to product table, and then we're gonna insert to inventory table. So let's get that code here. So let's repeat the steps we did for the product table. So I'm gonna look for my inventory table. First controller. So let's, yeah, go sequentially. First, let's also get the imports. Oops, I'm in the inventory table. imports. So let's get them imported here. Then let's get the repository bin. Then let's look for our create function. For the inventory, we will need to locally create the inventory table instance. So, so then we need to set the values. First is inventory ID, and we set that from our view supplied argument here. I mean, from the view API. Okay, then for the product ID, we will not use anything sent from the front end, but we have saved this product table, and then the variable for the product table will have the newly generated product ID. So we will set that. Then we will be setting up some more fields like product. Yeah, product ID set. Now we will be setting up like inventory cost, date, location, minimum quantity, and quantity. Cost to cost. Just gonna copy the line and change. Then we want to set entry date. Cost date. We're gonna set location. Then minimum quantity. And quantity. So this populates the local variable we created for our table inventory, and then we can just utilize we'll copy the save to inventory part. So that should take care of saving to the two tables. Now, usually what we return is the new saved record, but since we are using view based and individual record, we can just return this original record here. If you like, you can put up the updated product ID inside this so that um, the front end, if they need the newly created product ID for some reason, they will have it. So let's, yeah, just do that so that you know how to do it. So product ID, the same one as. All right, let's save and recompile and redeploy our API. So let's, yeah, recompile our APIs and then rerun our API. Let's test from front end the input form. We have taken care of the input part of it. So let's look for our inventory and product view screen input form. So remember product ID, ideally we can hide it. We're gonna discard this value so it will be generated because we want a new product ID created. So let's give a new 40. Let's see it. I mean, E is our new product, and for that we are inserting the inventory also. And quantity, cost, location. Let's submit. So let's figure what's the error happened and how to solve that. So if I look at my backend errors, I can see that product ID, since we not assign anything, um, there is a error. And then let's see if we just give up a mock-up product ID, whatever. Ideally, we should remove the product ID assignment. And now it says record added successfully. So our API call has been successful. Let's verify whether it appears, because this view is based on product and inventory, and then here it is showing me the created record. So it has added, but let's also verify. So it has created a product ID 29 for the new product vitamin E, and along with that it has also created inventory record, and this part has been successful. So we can see that this record, you can also individually go to product table, inventory table, and see the individual records, but we can see that uh, from one view based insert screen, we are able to insert data into two tables, product and inventory, via modifying the front end side and then the back end calls. So the second part, to modify the APIs for the edit, we'll just go through the steps, and hopefully you can take care of it. So what we have in edit form is, inventory ID, product ID, and if I change the name for the product here on the fly, for example, vitamin, I will change it to, uh, so that should take care of, editing the or updating the inventory table and product table. It depends on your use case. I'm not sure where you need it, but probably you will need such a scenario. So in that case, we'll just highlight the steps. How would you implement the backend API modification? I'm not going to modify anything here. And then let's look at our view-based update call. So as we did for create call, you would first fetch based on your inventory ID and product ID, the records for it. If the both are there and if they one of them is empty, you can return null. But if both are present, then you can individually um, get the save part of both two based on the same lines as what we did here. Declare the local product and inventory table model variables, assign values to them, and then don't use the ID from product table because it's already there. Don't need to use the one from the product table. Just use from the variables applied, and then both the tables variables assigned, then saved, and then you can save the table and return the status. So that's how we would take care of the update to the two tables from inside the API call based on the same lines as we did for the create call.